Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my first season. Greg and I worked together in Playa Blanca during the 96-97 season, but my first season was the summer of 1996 in Club Med Cancun as a tennis GO. I worked for Club Med for 1996 to 2014, and I was blessed I had the opportunity to work in Cancun, Sonora Bay, Ixtapa, Phuket, Ria Bintan, Turks and Caicos, just to name a few. Fun fact number one that I would like to share with you guys is that I worked as a standard most of my first season in Club Med. What is that, you ask? I will explain during the interview. I spent quite some time in Club Med when I was around 7-year-old, and my family had some business there in Ixtapa, and that was the reason why we spent weeks at a time at the Club Med there. I celebrated my birthday twice a year for many years as a prank to my CDV while I was in Club Med. Yes, believe it or not. But no, I did not get gifts for it. My name is Vladimir Malin, and this is my first season.
Vladimir, how are you, sir?
Senior Greg, very good. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So good to hear your voice after all these years. My God, Playa Blanca was so long ago, was it not?
Yeah, it seems like yesterday in many ways, but it is very long time ago.
Yeah, it was a great season, and we'll get to that one later on because I have some questions for you about that season and some very fun observations. But I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the podcast, but I want to thank you for coming on and agreeing to share your story with us. But and you mentioned in your intro that you were pretty young when you found out about Club Med, because most people don't find out about Club Med when they were 7 years old. So if you can take me back, are you actually from Mexico City and you were visiting Ixtapa? How does that work?
Yeah, I was born in Mexico City, and I was living in Mexico City at the time. My family on my father's side had some businesses in Ixtapa. They had a bullfight arena. They had
wait. Sorry. You're the only XGO that's family owned a bullfight arena. This is true?
Yes, they did.
Oh my God, what is that like?
It was interesting. It was obviously a small little town. It wasn't too big, but it was interesting, and it was great. And that's exactly how we got connected to Club Med, because at the time it was hard to live there, like there wasn't many places to live. So my family decided to live inside Club Med and just drive and check things out in the bullfight arena and the ring box and so on, because it was just safer.
Wow. So you were actually a GM living in Ixtapa?
Correct.
And did you get thrown into the mini club some days?
At the time, there wasn't a mini club by itself. I mean, it wasn't just the product. There was only they provide the service, they take care of the kids, but there wasn't a full mini club set up. And what I used to do was just to play the games around the pool, go and play soccer with everybody, enjoy the barbecues. So my memories, to be very honest, were not that many. It was just all about having fun, the pranks that we used to do between cousins. One day, one of my cousins was inside one of the rooms, and we decided to take an fire extinguisher and just open it up right below the doors, like Geos do. But when we were 7, so things like that. It was just fun, and that's all I remember from Club Med, looking at very good-looking girls on stage, guys without shirts on stage, and just fun.
So now we're getting into the teenage years and whatnot. Are you going to school? Are you working? Like before your 96 season, like where were you living? What were you doing?
After living in Mexico City, I went to LA, where I study and university. And once I graduated, I came back to Mexico City for a year. I tried to do some.
Wait a minute. You went to LA for school?
Correct.
Where'd you go?
UCLA.
Oh, really? You're
Yes.
You're a Bruin. Oh, cool.
Absolutely.
Wow, nice. What did you study there?
Communications, TV
wow.
and radio production.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was very different. I never thought I would do something like this. And furthermore, I never experienced or never thought I would be in an industry such as the hospitality industry. I can tell you that.
Well, sure. Yeah. Judging by, your studies at UCLA. So what you get home, and then, so what makes you say, hey, I want to apply for Club Med? What was it?
Funny thing is, I went back to Mexico City, and when I was there, at certain point within the first year, I was tired of the city. I wasn't sure I wanted to live there. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I just graduated from uni, so I was looking into options, and I don't know what to do. And my aunt, who was one of the people and the persons that we experienced Club Med when I was 7, she mentioned in a barbecue, she's like, why don't you go and speak with Ricardo? Ricardo Gonzalez used to be the CDV in Ixtapa when I was 7 years old, and he passed away, but he was at the time the CEO for America for Club Med, and he was based in Mexico City. But he was the CDV in Ixtapa, like I said, in 1980 something. So I decided to go and see. I didn't know what Club Med was because he was there at that barbecue. He's like, hey, come see me. We'll see what we can do. We'll send you to teach tennis somewhere, blah, 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 blah. So one day I decided that I just wanted to talk to him and see what it was, because my memories were a lot of like blank spaces. I couldn't remember much. And there were just a few little fun memories. So I'm like, hey, maybe I'll talk to him and see what it is. So I decided to go into the office one day that I'm driving through the city, and I see the Club Med office. I stopped and I'm like, let me ask this guy what it is. So literally that was a Wednesday, and he told me that I should come back the next day. He'll have my airline ticket to go to Ixtapa for 1 month to teach tennis and just take a break from the city. So I'm like, hey, that sounds good to me.
Okay, hold up. Did you know how to play tennis?
You could say that.
Okay.
I wasn't like the water ski geos that were sent, or the mini geos that had no experience on kids. No, I did play tennis.
Okay, good.
Prior to that, so I had some knowledge.
So this was like an au pair thing, like a 1 month au pair?
No, he was sending me as he was sending me as a salary, a contract for a month, just because we knew him. We were close. I didn't go through an interview at the time. I just went straight to talk to the CEO.
All right, so you do your month as a tennis geo in Ixtapa.
No.
Oh no.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
He comes back to me. It's like, I come back tomorrow. Thursday, you will have your ticket and you have to speak with this lady. So I'm like, perfect. I'll come back the next day. So Thursday, I pass by the office. I go and I ask for Pilar, which was the girl that was in charge of recruitment at the time. And she received, she welcomes me and she's like, perfect. Thank you, Vlad. Well, good to see you. We knew each other. Funny things, we knew each other from, nightclubs and stuff in the city. So she's like, so you're the person that Ricardo was talking about? I'm like, yes, that's me. So anyhow, she's like, handles me a ticket, and the ticket is for Club Med Cancun. So in my head, I'm thinking, hey, 1 month in Ixtapa, 1 month in Cancun, I'm good, I'd rather go to Cancun. It's fine with me. So I'm like, oh, perfect. So I'll be in Cancun for a month. And she looks at me and goes, hey, have you talked to Ricardo today? I'm like, nope. She goes, I think you need to talk to him. I'm like, okay. She's like, go talk to him. So I went upstairs. It was like a little house in Mexico City, a beautiful house in one of the nicest sides of the city. So I went upstairs to talk to him. And he's like, hey, listen, Vlad, I'm sorry. I didn't let you know. I didn't have time, but it's simple. I need somebody in Cancun. I don't need an Ixtapa. So I'm like, good, Cancun. And he's like, no, but the contract in Cancun is for 6 months, not for a month. And now I'm like, okay, hold on. This is a different story, It's not the same. I was thinking I'm going for a month. I can take off without a problem. But now I gotta, coordinate. I was living by myself. So the apartment, this and that. I'm like, whatever, just simple things. But I'm like, can I think about it? He looks at me and is like, sure, you have 15 minutes.
Classic.
A very Club Med. Very well. Interesting, but lovely, to be honest. And I was like, oh my God. So I went downstairs and I'm thinking, and I'm like, hey, listen, what I'm doing here, which was very little or almost nothing, to be honest, I'm like, I can do that in Club Med. So I'll just give it a shot. And if I don't like it, then, I'll resign and I'll talk to them and I'll come back. It's how it is. So I went back to the lady, to Pilar, and I said, sure, I'll take it. So I went. My ticket was for Saturday, 2 days later. So I had Friday to organize my life to leave Saturday morning towards Club Med Cancun. That's how I got into Club Med.
And you arrive around April of 96 to Cancun?
That was the beginning of April, correct.
Who was the chief of village in that in that
Stefan
resort?
Ruana.
Okay. But you did start doing tennis lessons, right?
Yes, but no.
Yes, because in your intro, you mentioned that you worked most of your first season as a standard, and you said, and I told you I was confused, like in your pre-interview, and you said you would explain what happened, right?
This is sad, but I'm gonna share it with you and everybody.
But no, but if it's too sad for you, you don't have to share. It's okay.
I
But
love it. That's why
okay,
it's sad for me.
okay, all right, it's your show. So
You know what happened is that I got there, and the first few days, I I first got there, and there was arrival Saturday. It's craziness, people walking around. Back in the day, remember that the reception didn't have a reception. It was little areas, windows where there was traffic, transportation, the bank, and that. So everybody had to go through all this process of walking around, finding their luggage, telling them into the bus. So it's craziness. It's chaotic. The reception is just going bananas. It's wild. So I'm like, okay, I got there, and people's running around, geos are walking around, there's buses leaving, people arriving. I'm just looking like, what the heck is going on here? I'm like, okay, great. What do I do? And somebody approaches me, it's like, well, what are you doing here? I'm like, you here on vacation? I'm like, no. Like, so you are working here? I'm like, yeah, you are Geo. And I'm like, don't know, I guess. I don't know what they're called, but I'm working. They're like, oh, okay, hold on 1 second. Da, 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 da. There comes the chief of sports that comes running, approaches me and says, okay, I'll take you to your room. But very briefly, because they were going crazy. So he's like just walking me to the room. I got into the room in Casitas in Club Med in Cancun. And then he leaves and he's like, okay, I'll look for you later. Oh, hold on. It wasn't even him. No, it wasn't Chief of Sports. I got Gilles Bien, the gestionnaire that was there that walked me into my room. So then I was there and I'm like, okay, great. I don't know. The Chief of Sports, he told me the Chief of Sports is going to look for you. I'm like, great. So then I'm like, what do I do? So I start walking around, checking things out. I had that Saturday afternoon because I arrived at like noon. It was early, midday. So I just walk around and see things everywhere, start, having lunch, walking around, asking questions, but mostly just walking by the beach and having fun. That night I party hard. The next day I didn't wake up very early. And I was just going on this road of not knowing anything because I haven't met anybody. Nobody approached me. Nobody has said anything. So day 2, Sunday, I did pretty much the same thing. Day 3, somebody walks to me and I'm like, hey guys, where am I supposed to be? Somebody goes, well, where are you? I'm like, tennis. And they're like, well, go to this tennis courts. I go in the middle of the day. Obviously, there's nobody there. I'm like, well, there's nobody here. What am I supposed to do? So like, really, I'm confused. Finally, I think on Monday, I find out, well, the chief of sports finds me and he's like, where have you been? And I'm like, here, walking around, having drinks at night that I have to admit, I was partying at nighttime. And then finally, he introduces me to the chief of tennis, this British guy, great guy, James. And I find out that I had to run from Mexico City to Cancun because within 2 days, 48 hours, because they needed me there. And there's 4 tennis geos at the time in the village. So the next couple of days, I didn't even teach tennis because I first of all, I show up late to work, to be honest, because I party hard every night and waking up at 8 o'clock is something I wasn't used to. So I was showing up at like 9:30, 10:20, late. It was, that's what I'm saying, that it was sad. It was crazy. And so the chef de village comes to me because I'm not doing anything. Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. The best part is by Saturday, I have teach 1 tennis lesson, beginners on Friday. It's all I have done for a week. Saturday, they are like, you gotta go and do departures because there's people leaving. And I'm like, okay. Next thing you know, I see that the village is getting empty. Like I see people leaving. I'm like, okay, well, that's okay, waving and saying goodbye to people. And by 6 p.m. or so, there's nobody in the village. And I'm like, what's going on here? I don't understand. Last week it was craziness, and right now there's nothing. And that night we had dinner in the restaurant. We had a geo meeting, and Stefan Ruana is telling everybody that Atlantis is arriving and that we have to use these little like traffic lights with double red, yellow, green, and double green that you have to where to mention or tell people or give a signal to the clients of whether, how friendly you are, what you want to, how much you want to spend time with them, and so on. So craziness from there to having a full village of Atlantis, and my second season in Club Med, and just spending one tennis class during the first week. It was just wild. I just didn't know what was going on. But I just couldn't get used to tennis in a sense that I just wasn't used to get up early in the morning. I managed to say it. So I was showing up late for work constantly. And the chef de village, Stefan, came up to me and said, Vlad, you got to help me out here. I can't have you showing up that late every day. So I'm going to change you and I'm going to move you to the bar. So I went as a bartender for almost a week, I guess. But because they started at 11 o'clock and 1 p.m. But the little detail that he forgot to mention is bartenders had open bar at the time. So now I was partying harder and drinking even more.
I was just going to ask that. Okay.
So it was crazy. Now I'm not even showing up for the 11 o'clocks. I'm barely showing up for the 1 p.m.
Oh, man. Okay.
I know.
Just please say the story has a happy ending. Okay.
I think after 20-something years, it is a happy ending.
No, I mean a happy ending for this season. Okay. So let's get into. So is this? So at this point, let's make a long story short. Did he say, "Hey, how about standard?" And you said yes.
Exactly. He comes to me. He's like, "I need to work as a standard." I'm like, "What's a standard?" He's like, "Phone operator. You answer the phones, pick up, and transfer the phone calls." I'm like, "Sure." 8 o'clock, 1 p.m., 6 p.m., 3 different hours. I'm like, "Oh, sure, I can do that." 8 o'clocks were always rough. I will always show up late for 8 o'clocks. But the 1 and the 6 p.m., I could make it. And I was there pretty much the rest of that season.
And when I met you in Playa 96, you were also standard, right? I believe. Standard traffic. I guess you're doing both.
Correct. I went there as a standard because I went back to Mexico City after Cancun. After 6 months, I went back to the city and I thought that was it. That was the end of Club Med for me. Great experience, had so much fun, but it was time for me to move on, and do something else. But I just couldn't find myself in the city. I didn't feel that I belonged there and I didn't know what to do. And Club Med called me out of the blue and they're like, "Hey, you want to go back? And, we need somebody for Playa Blanca." And when I was in Cancun, everybody talked about Playa Blanca, that was the place you needed to go. And I'm like, "Hey, sure, 6 more months. Playa Blanca sounds like a great place. Let's do it." So I went back. They offered me standard, and I did both that season, standard and traffic. During the weekends, I was doing traffic. During the week, I was doing standard.
Yeah, that's when I met you. I didn't know what a standard was because I don't recall that in Columbus where I was before. And of course, back then, we didn't have smartphones. So I guess people needed to use the phone. It was always expensive, right? I mean,
it was very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So also in Playa, now this is how I knew that Mexican geos were a million times tougher than me. So the first time I saw a Mexican geo's birthday in Playa, I was horrified because so they bring out the cake, everyone's screaming "Mordida, mordida." They shove his face in the cake. Then they make him stand on a chair in the restaurant and give him a bottle of red wine where they proceed to chug said bottle of red wine. And I'll never forget this. It's like I'm haunted by this because I couldn't believe you could chug a bottle of red wine and still be functional, but they were. So do you recall this? Or
of course, that's what we do in Mexico with kids. As soon as they turn 7, that's what we do. We have to shovel them into the cake and then give them a bottle of red wine.
Well, no, not at 7. No, these geos were over 18, but I'm just saying I didn't know what was going on in the main restaurant when I first saw that.
That was craziness, wasn't it?
Yes, and then every Mexican geo had to do the same thing. Like even the girls, like, "What are you doing?" And then I probably could not chug a bottle of white wine, to be honest. But red wine, I don't understand how you could physically do that. But they did, and that's what I'm like. Oh my God, these guys are so much tougher than I am. I could never do that.
It's funny the things we used to do in that restaurant. I mean, remember I loved Lulu, the chef de village. She was rough, she was tough, but she was a straight shooter. If you do what you need to do, she'll take care of you.
Well, she cared about, yes, she was tough and rough, but she actually cared about the guests' satisfaction. Like she wanted to know, like, because she would do her own questionnaire while they were still there. And if you didn't give her geo team 10 out of 10, she wanted to know exactly why. So she was constantly there for the GMs. I always admired that about her, like her hustle and work ethic. Sure. I mean, she wanted to know if you were not having a good time and why.
I loved every minute I spent with her. Like I really loved that season. It was fantastic. All of the people, all of the team was probably that's probably my best season in Club Med, Greg. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, it was special that for such a small village too. It was nestled in the side of the mountain. I mean, and everything was centrally located, right? I mean, because it was a small village, everything was there. Happy hour at 5 o'clock was crazy. I remember Nancy ringing the cowbell every day at 5, and people would
Right.
just come to the bar. I mean, my God, what? Yeah, no, it was a special time for sure. I thought Playa Blanca. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. And great friends, long time friends now. And it was fantastic.
And yeah, and now I'm looking at your the list of villages you sent me, and you actually go back to Ixtapa as chief of tennis. Is that right? After Playa?
After Playa, I did Ixtapa just for a couple of months, just to open the village.
But as tennis.
As tennis now, yeah.
So were you used to getting up earlier then?
Now things have changed. Now I
Okay.
knew I was trained, I learned,
Okay.
and I changed my schedule and I started to wake up earlier in the mornings. And then I went to tennis, but just for I don't know, very short time, like 2 months. I think I got there in, I don't know, I will say November, end of November, and I left by January to open Sonora Bay. So it was very short. Oh no, wait, I did one season as a bartender in Ixtapa.
Oh wow. Actually, can we go back to Playa for a sec? Because
Yep.
it's not often I get to talk to someone who was. I mean, I had Dana on, but I forgot to talk about someone very, very a guy I always liked. I mean, because I thought he was crazy, but Uncle Larry. Okay. Now, as you know, Uncle Larry, he actually lived at Playa and then from Cancun, right? So he would actually live the whole 6 months with us in Playa. And Uncle Larry, for those who don't know, yeah, was a GM. He lived year long in Club Med. He went from Cancun to Playa, and he was very eccentric. He would do his own animation passages.
Oh God, yeah.
Like the power walk was ungodly early. I think it was 7 a.m. in Playa. No one would show up, but he would be crawling out of the nightclub, and he'd show up in like cowboy boots and a speedo and a
And
leather
it's
vest, and he'd be
yeah.
go, "Let's go, Greg." I'm like, "Oh, please don't make me do it, Uncle Larry." I mean, I don't know. Like, is that where you first met him, or did you meet him in Cancun prior to Playa?
To be honest, I met him in Playa. I didn't see him in Cancun. Maybe he did came during the time I was there, but I never got a chance to meet him in Cancun. First time I saw him was in Playa, but then afterwards, when I went back to Cancun, I saw him a few times. But yeah, Playa Blanca, his speedos, his boots, the hat,
Well, yeah,
drinking since early in the morning.
yes, and
Wow.
he would make his own T-shirt. As I still remember when I first met him, he had on a circus T-shirt, had a photo of him at circus, and it said "Get horizontal with Uncle Larry" on it. And then one day he calls me in his room. He goes, Greg, I want to show you something. I want to show you something. Or what? He goes, look at this. Tell me what you think. And he had a pillow with a belt around the pillow and a Cuervo gold hat on the pillow. He goes, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at here, Uncle Larry. Apparently the maid that cleaned his room, one of her family members passed away, and he wanted to cheer her up. He said, do you think this will cheer her up? And they're, okay, yeah, I guess, sure. And then I quickly exited the room. Okay.
Now, yeah, no kidding. The first thing you need to know is
I
get out
mean,
of that room. Get
yeah, I mean,
out of that
what a
room.
character, though. I mean, I've met some GM characters, but I think of all the rest in peace, Uncle Larry. That's all I want to say, because he was
Indeed.
the character of all characters.
Yeah, indeed. It was a great guy, good heart, but yeah, I mean, he had fun, and if you understood, what he wanted and his ways, it,
Yes.
it was a fun person to be around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was. Yeah. You really. Yeah. If you got him, then yeah. Yeah. But he was. We always had fun. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, Playa was fantastic, and there were so many, GMs like that. Not only Playa, but everywhere. I think. I mean, Cancun as well. There were a few GMs that were repetitive, that pretty much lived there for quite a long time, and same thing. Different personalities.
Yeah. And then I see you're still in Mexico. You go to Sonora Bay as chief of traffic.
Then I went to Sonora Bay as chief of traffic because I was doing tennis as well in Sonora. But because the same thing, those villages live through, I mean, traffic during the weekend is high. They have a lot of arrivals and departures, but during the week is very little work to do. Playa Blanca is pretty much the same. Saturday and Sundays, there were crazy arrivals and departures. But then Monday to Friday, it was very easy to work. So in Sonora Bay, I was chief of traffic, but I was doing tennis during the week because I wanted to do something else. I was teaching tennis in the middle of the mornings and stuff.
Really? You're doing two jobs?
Well, not just because I wanted, like it was fun and I had good friends there that allowed me to do so. I went to Sonora Bay with Gus, which you met and you remember.
Yeah, Gus.
Great guy, chief of entertainment in Playa.
Yes.
I love working with Gus. We got along really well.
So he was now chief of village in Sonora?
His promotion first
or animation
chef de village.
Correct. Oh, it was. Oh, okay. So, all right, great. Great.
So I went there with him. He brought me from Ixtapa, and it was fantastic. I love doing traffic for him, and same thing. Eduardo, chief of sports, who then became chef de village later on, was there, and they, they were great. I'm like, hey, can I do this during the week? Sure, Vlad. You want to teach tennis? Go ahead, have fun. So they allowed me to interact a little bit more with the life of the village.
Oh, it's a beautiful resort, Sonora?
Amazing, all the lagoon, that little lagoon, the mountains, the desert. It's just amazing, a great place. Sadly, I think all of these, most of these villages are sad that they are gone,
Yes.
But they were great. Sonora was beautiful, beautiful village.
Then I see you go back to Cancun as community liaison, but I don't know what that is.
Community liaison was a position. I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant. It's not. They built it for me because they needed somebody to be the link between the village and the local authorities and so on at the time. For certain reasons, there were certain challenges they were facing. So they decided that I was the right person to do it. So they offered me to go there as community liaison. My job was to interact with hotel association, local police, etc. So all the local authorities or local offices. So my job was to present all the documentation from the lawyers to remember that there's a natural park right outside. I mean, the reef and everything in Cancun is it's a natural park in Cancun. So we had to constantly be presenting information, documentation from the lawyers to the local authorities for the park. Yes, I used to have to go to the police station and get some of the geos out of trouble from time to time because something happened at Darios or any of the other nightclubs.
Coco Bongo. My favorite was Coco Bongo, but what was your favorite club? Just a side.
You know what? To me, it was always Darios for many reasons. I had a very close relationship with them. I used to do a lot of parties with them, bring all the geos, and because this was part of the things that I used to do, coordinate everything. So friends of mine, Ryan Leach, who was the CDV at the time, used to call me the king of Cancun because I will get anything, I'll make anything happen. He'll be like, hey, can we get this? I'm like, sure. Just give me a few days and I will make it happen. So, but Dadios were great friends, great parties. Every Thursday we used to take the entire village, and they would always look after the geos and everybody. So it was just so much fun.
Well, Ryan is chef de village. What year is this now at Cancun? If he's chief around
2000. Oh wait, because obviously I'm sorry. I went back and I worked with Kevin for the reopening in '98.
Okay.
I did 98 with Kevin Bad, with the Dream Team, or what I used to call the Drink Team.
This is the reopening because of a hurricane or something?
After a hurricane, the first renovation or large renovation they did, probably they had others before, but the first large renovation they sent, Kevin was there, Ryan Leach was PR, Hendel was chief of sports.
Oh, wow.
It was a dream team. It was rock stars all over the place. And we just, party so hard, but it was so much fun. And that time I was there as chief of tennis. I did 8 months as chief of tennis. And then I stayed there in 98 to 2001 almost, because after Kevin left, Hammer came in, and that's where I met who I believe is my mentor and a person that I respect and admire so much. And I worked with Hammer from then on a lot of time.
So if Hammer was your mentor, because I'm starting to see that you went to Sandpiper as chief of land sports. So that would usually mean that you were thinking around this time about wanting to become a chief of sports. Is that correct?
Yeah. You know what happened is that Hammer was the first one. The first few years were great. I had a great time. They were fun. But to be honest, it was just more for the experience of Club Med and everything that was happening around. I love it. But when I started working with Hammer, with Kevin and Hammer, both, but Hammer in particular, he really was the first one that said, hey, listen, you have potential. I think we can build something with you. It's, you know, if you want to do it. So I had a couple of years of having fun already in my pocket. And I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to be here, I might as well do it right. So sure, let's give it a shot and move forward with it. So I start working to where is, you know, development and growth within the company. So the next step was Chief of Sports for sure.
Now, when you became chief of land sports at Sandpiper, did you like doing water aerobics? Because I sure didn't. Were you good at it?
I'll tell you the truth. I love it. I really, really love it. I had a great time with water aerobics. You know, I'm very outgoing and I like to talk to people and make jokes and have fun. So to me, it was heaven. It's like, you know what? They're paying me to play around. It's like being a child again and just have a good time.
Okay, so you were doing like the massage circle water aerobics then, because I think
absolutely.
Okay, so there's two types: me, who took it so seriously and I wanted to kill him because I didn't want him to come back, and the other one, like you and Tarzan, would make it like just a fun event, right?
But you know what? I had great people. I mean, the people I learned from, all these guys that I would call teachers in that sense, Jenner, you know, people that had really knowledge, Scotty Duncan, all these people that knew how to do it. So it was a workout. It was fun. I mean, we will make people work out, but I will just enjoy it. And at the end, I will do everything, you know, the circle, the massage, and just, I remember always telling them, you know, we love the Mexican was the scream at the end of the circle. So it was just fun. I like having fun with it.
Okay, so from your first season till Sandpiper, let's stop for a funny story break. Did anything funny happen at any of these resorts? Cancun, Playa Ixtapa, Snorbe? I don't know, like something appropriate that you could share. Did anything, do you recall?
Something PG-13.
Well, even no more Disney. Yeah, like not even parental guidance. Nope, all ages. I know, because you know we mentioned Uncle Larry, but we can't say our Uncle Larry stories, unfortunately. But I don't know, did anything happen while you were chief of traffic, or you know, it could even be a horror show like Chief of Traffic. Something went wrong, you know. I mean, because I'm a perfectionist, but I like when things go wrong too. You know, did anything, or is it you have stories for later seasons? We can always skip to the later ones if you wish, but I don't want to, you know, you've had such a, you know, a good career. You must have had something funny happen. So that's why I'm asking, but it's okay if you don't. More than cool.
You know what? There's a lot of funny things that happened throughout the years, obviously. I had a couple of funny stories for later on, not yet, not quite there yet.
All right. Because yeah, I noticed once you become chief of land sports, so did you do 1 year at Sandpiper or just 6 months as chief of land sports?
I did 1 year. You know what? I chief of land sports. Quick, very funny story in Sandpiper.
Yes.
Chief of land sports Sandpiper. We do New Year's Eve. My fitness instructor doesn't feel good on January 1st. And so I get a call, obviously, after being celebrating the full night and everything that happens in the villages. So I'm like, hey, listen, I was tired. I was exhausted. And somebody calls me at like 7 o'clock to tell me that, you know, the fitness instructor doesn't feel good. And, you know, we need somebody to do stretching.
So wait, this was, so it was New Year's Eve. So the day before, is that what you're saying?
No, the day after, January 1st.
Okay, and this was
New Year's Day.
2000, 2001?
This was probably 2002.
Oh, okay.
83.
Okay. So not something you want to hear, right? When you're chief of
land sports. The only thing you don't want to hear.
Okay, yeah, especially that position, right? Because it's probably the hardest on land sports, right?
Get up early in the morning, walk that way, and you know what? I'm like, hey, let's do it. You know, it's all we have. So I got there and I started telling. I wasn't even a pro. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. You know, it's not my strength. It's not something I really knew how to do. But anyhow, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I got there and I'm like, guys, here we go. We're gonna start by doing stretching, and you know, you start with all these different positions in the morning. As soon as we get to the floor, I swear to God, I will fall asleep for a minute or two between every transition.
Really?
Yeah, I will say, guys, we turn to the left.
Okay.
We
Wow.
switch to the right and sleep for another couple of minutes. It was
Okay.
terrible.
So it was like nap time in kindergarten, right? Okay, we're going to take our mats. Okay.
Exactly. I felt so bad after. Then I had to do body pump and body combat.
Oh.
And after the last class of the morning, I literally waved to the GMs. I'm like, have a great day, bye. And I went on the corner and I just threw up. I felt horrible.
Okay.
That's life, my friend. You learn from
Yes,
these
it,
experiences.
it is. It is. So I see. So after a year at Sandpiper, do you go on the chief of sports stage, or do you go during while you're at Sandpiper? Do you go, or did you have a stage? How did
I
that
did.
work?
I did had a stash in
Where
Opio.
was me too, Opio. So what year were you stage in
Oof.
Opio?
I don't want to lie, 2002, maybe 2003, somewhere in
Okay.
that.
All right. And how many were you on your stage? 20, less than
Uh,
20?
there were somewhere around 20, yes.
Okay. So I'm curious. I did mine in 99. You did yours in 2002, 2003. So did you find that it helped at all? Like we were in the classroom most of the day. So if you can just take me through what a typical day was. Did you start by jogging on the golf course and then were you 7 hours in a classroom? Like how was it for you?
Pretty much. They
Oh,
took us on the golf course, jogging early in the morning. It's freezing cold because obviously it is
yes.
snow. When we
Yes.
were there, it started snowing. And we're like, oh God. So the next day they take us out and they're like, we're gonna take a run first. I'm like, great. And the funny thing is, like, I mean, at the end of the day, we were fit. I have a funny story about you, by the way.
Oh boy. Okay. Long as
We
it's
were,
appropriate, long as it's appropriate, no problem. Okay.
I will go into that one right after I finish this one.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so we were fit, getting up in the morning and running around. I'm like, sure. But you will see other people that are transitioning from being animation or mini club or something else, that they're not as fit as we used to be as being part of the sports team. And they had to follow up with everybody. And you see them going, oh my God, this is going to kill them. But anyhow, let's go.
Well,
So we
yes.
ran.
Yes, but not only that, but didn't you find the hardest part was sitting in a classroom? Like we're used to moving around. You were doing land sports, you were active. And now you make us sit in a class. I thought that was hell because people were falling asleep. Guys were punching themselves in the face because you
Exactly.
had to go out the night before to the disco, right? So to
Exactly.
me,
I was going to ask you that.
yes,
Were you falling asleep as well? Because I
yes,
was.
yes. I remember one guy, Pierre from Montreal, like just punching himself in the jaw because that was like, this is crazy. Like this is the hardest part about the stage and it should have been the easiest, but you taking guys on the sports team and you're making them sit in a classroom for 7 hours a day after making them party the night before. I thought this was crazy. Everyone's like, when are we going to learn the mic? We didn't learn the mic,
Absolutely.
we're in a classroom.
Exactly. Just like that. That was my stash for just.
Okay, so it didn't change much from 99 to 2002.
Not
So
much.
who was your who was the person that led your stage? Do you remember? Like there was. Okay, was it
No, I don't want to lie. I can't.
Was it Alain Decoy or no?
No,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to lie. I can't remember that.
Now, like what was funny about mine, we were 20 on my stage. The one guy, like who didn't have to travel, he was actually a stagiaire in Opio. He was late for the jog the next morning. We went to his room. He had a basement room, and we all knocked on his window, all 19 of us, and the guy leading the stage. You should have seen the look of horror on his face when he realized you overslept. Okay,
Oh God.
like we came from Martinique. We had a nightmare travel. Like you came from Sandpiper, so you had quite a ways to travel. The guy who's from Opio is
It's late.
late for the first day. Like the nerve.
Exactly. That's horrible.
All right. So you do your chief of sports stage. Now, do you find out where you're going right away, or did you have to wait a while to find out where there was?
No, I pretty much knew already, but
did a chief ask you to come with them, or did you ask a chief?
Hammer, I was in Sandpiper with Hammer again. I worked with Hammer in Cancun. Then I followed Hammer to Sandpiper. And then he mentioned that if I wanted to continue growing, I needed to go and work with an Italian CDV, with a European CDV. And he's like, you need to go to Turks. It's a great guy. His name is Alessandro. I don't want to lie because I don't want to say that he said these words. Maybe he didn't, but that's how I remember it.
Wait a minute. Why did he say you should work with the European chief of village?
Just to grow, to learn more about a different culture, the European management style. So the words he used, I think, he said to me, Is like me, but Italian.
Oh, okay. The Italian Hammer. Okay.
It's great. And I mean, if that's how I remember it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I remember it.
Well, I mean, first season chief of sport in Turks is pretty good, no?
It was fantastic, and everything that came along with it was just amazing because
Now
I
you
had some of my best buddies working there at the time as well.
are we still in
Alexander was amazing.
are we still in 2002 or 2003?
Now it's 2003 or somewhere around 2003 for sure.
Okay. Do you have any JoJo stories? Did you get to swim with JoJo?
I have a good one.
Okay.
I had a very good one. You know what? I used to, I wasn't certified or anything in scuba. I wanted to learn. So I decided to start taking the classes. And you know, at the beginning, they take you to the pool. And then after the pool, they take you into the ocean, you know, they take you right there by the pier, you know, where all the boats are, the first class or whatever, the second class, I don't remember. So anyhow, I'm going down and I'm taking the photos on these first classes, diving, and there is a photographer that is taking pictures. And all I see is my teacher, my instructor, and the photographer looking at me and, you know, waving, giving me a signal that I should turn to the right. So I'm like, okay. And I turn to the right and I see JoJo's nose is right in front of mine, like 2 inches away from my nose.
Oh, wow.
They take a picture of that. God bless, because of the mask and the mouthpiece, because if I didn't have those, my face in the picture would have been like terror, like I mean, I don't know if I was screaming inside, but I was just horrified by just looking on the right and see this thing right in front of me. It was so funny. Just obviously at the time I was scared because I didn't expect to see JoJo right on my nose.
Yeah, and when you first see him, he's pretty big, right? I mean,
it's a dolphin. I mean,
yes.
You're not talking about a little turtle.
Yeah. Your first time, it's special, but it's also a little scary, right? I mean,
yeah, it was.
Please say you still have this photo. Okay.
I do have it.
Okay, good. I'll ask you to send me that one later. Okay.
I'll look for it because I don't know what it is, but I do have it.
No problem. You got the time to look. This was because you don't see that many face-to-face photos with, you know, JoJo, you know, like you nearly see him, his fins out of the water, you know, and that's about it. But that's probably a very special memory, right?
Yeah, I was lucky. I was blessed.
So did anything go wrong your first season as chief of sports? Like there must have been something funny or going wrong. I don't know.
It was great, and many things went wrong.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You know, it was a season that it was rough. We had big parties in Charkis every night, and with the adult village and the fun times also comes craziness, you know, and things happen sometimes when that happens. So I remember Alessandro at certain points grabbed me and a friend of mine, Josh Cryer, JK, great guy.
JK, yes, love JK.
Yeah, well, him and I were in the village together. He looks at JK and looks at Vlad and goes, hey, listen, this is what I need you guys to do. Vlad will take over the night program. So Vlad, I don't care what time you wake up, if you're around the village at 1 o'clock or noon or whatever, but I want you to stay at Sharky's until it closes every night to make sure everything goes smooth.
What time did it close then?
Around 5 a.m. every morning.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to stay at nighttime. To be honest, as you can tell by the beginning of my career in Club Med, I like to party, and I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay. So, yeah. So the chief tells you, if the chief tells you can get up at 1 p.m., you're not going to argue, right? Okay.
I'm going to do this. You know, jump straight forward to it. So I'm good.
All right. Get you out of the pool game. Great. Okay.
It was fun. Yeah, exactly. No power walks. None of that.
Yes. Wow. Before we go on, you asked me to remind you of a funny story about me. I think this one concerns Playa, like something you remember about me. So
yes, it was fantastic.
Okay.
I remember going to, you know, like I said, I helped traffic, and most of the times in Playa, since I was doing traffic, but I wasn't going to the airport because we had Rodrigo. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes. Oh, yes.
He used to go to the airports and everything. Salvador and Rodrigo would go to the airport, so I will stay in the village. But every week I used to go and take one of the buses, the Vancouver bus, I believe it was, and take them to Puerto Vallarta and bring them back, like we used to do.
Yeah, hell trip.
Obviously, crazy. Yeah, but I used to have fun. I will, stop, buy beers like everybody did, and buy bottles and just chips and stuff, and make sure that they had a good trip on the good 3 hours on the bus ride. But anyhow, as soon as we get to the village, I come down the bus and I'm looking on top, while all the GMs are coming down. And you are, I don't know, like you are next to me, a few people around, like maybe 3 or 4 years after me on the right-hand side. So the GMs have to turn to the left, face all the line of GOs, and then walk towards the reception. So this couple, this beautiful girl, whatever, with a boyfriend, comes down the stairs. And as soon as she's down the stairs of the bus, holds hands with the boyfriend. And they turn left. And as soon as she sees you, and I'm looking at this picture with them in front of me and you in the background. So I see perfectly what she's looking at. As soon as she turns and sees you, she just throw the hand away like it was horrible. Like don't touch me.
Oh my God. Okay.
Don't let this guy see that I have a boyfriend. I'm like, oh
boy.
Horrible.
I'm glad I didn't see that. Okay.
But ever since that day, I used to say, Greg, it's a perfect girlfriend stealer Geo.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad I actually had a girlfriend in that village, because the guys were, I've never seen guys so angry, GM guys so angry, because a lot of the guys were very good looking in that village, right? Like, anyone named Vladimir was good looking. You had you and Vladimir Circa, so I'm so glad because they were always complaining about you single good looking guys. So I was so happy to say I had a girlfriend, because
you didn't have that issue.
That was the only resort where it was every day I heard something about how a guy was angry at the Geo guys. So I'm so happy. But at the same time, because my girlfriend at the time was a little maybe possessive. So like you said, women were very direct in that resort. So I had different problems, but I'm glad I was single. I'm glad I was not single, but wow, good times.
Yeah, it was funny. I was laughing. I'm like, oh God, that is not cool.
No.
But it was fun. It was funny.
All right, let's get back to your story. So after Turks, you go to one of my favorite places, where I also was a chief of sport. You go to Ria Bintan in Indonesia. How did you get to go there? What was did you know the chief, or you?
Guess who was the chef de village there?
Gus?
Nope.
Hammer.
Correct.
Okay, so you were there with Corey Golf then, because he was also Corey from America was also the Golf Geo with Hammer. So I'm wondering if you were both there at the same time.
No, we weren't. I got there right after Corey left.
Oh, okay.
I know Corey. I know him, but
okay.
He was there before me, because Hammer, I think, was there for 2 years.
That's right. Yeah.
And I got there for the second year, because like I said, after Sandpiper, Hammer went to Bintan. I went to Turks. I did a year in Turks, and then I went to Bintan with Hammer.
So do you remember the jet lag when you got there?
It was lovely. It was strong. It was God. I remember getting up in the morning in Singapore. First of all, of course, you get there at night.
Yeah.
You don't know what is going on. First time in Asia. The taxi takes me. This is good. This is good. I got out of the airport, and the first thing I see when I'm exit the doors is the taxi lines. But I see a taxi. I mean, the ones in front of me are black Mercedes. So I'm like, hey, and they are taxi. I'm like, sure. I'm thinking, wow, only Mercedes has taxis. Maybe this is like Germany. So I got into the taxi. It's a luxury ride, and I'm like, hey, sure, let's take it. When I get to the village, the gesture is like, why do you take a limousine service? And I'm like, I don't know. It's the first thing I saw. Anyhow, but yeah, I went to the hotel, and the next morning, you get up in the morning, and I'm like, what? I don't know where I am. Jet lag is hitting. I went downstairs, and the breakfast is not what we're used to. So I'm like, I don't know what to eat. I don't know where I am. I don't know if I make the right decision to come here.
Yeah, it's a bit of culture shock, I guess, right? When you go to Asia for the first time.
Yeah, it was, but it was great. I mean, how was your experience in Asia? To me, it was lovely. I would live in Asia.
Yeah, no, it was, and it's a beautiful resort, with that vanishing edge pool, and the beach is beautiful. It's do you have any crazy monkey stories? So we had
Yeah.
you had a JoJo story. So do you have a monkey story?
Remember the one with the little bell, the one that was very aggressive?
Yeah, well, I actually remember a lot that were aggressive, but yeah, it's usually when we went to eat at the Annex restaurant on the ocean, they would come right out of the tree. So that's when they were around food, I found they were aggressive. But yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Maintenance put a little bell, like these kitten bells that they put on cats, on kittens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, and you could hear him, and it is true. I remember one day I'm just exiting the door. Remember that there was this little hall where all the offices were, Chef of Sports, Chef de Village, gestion on the left hand side, whatever. So I'm exiting the door, and I see all these people running towards the other side. They're coming from where is the spa, coming from that side of the village. And they're running, and I'm like, what's going on? And the gestioner is running right in front of me across, and it's like, get in. And he runs into the door, and I look, and I see that little, it wasn't little, it was big. That's why they had to put that bell on. It was chasing everybody. I'm like, oh, close the door.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he was.
Yeah. Yeah, usually if people are running by you, like, you should ask questions. You should just start running.
You should run. That's it. Same thing happened to me walking the village. I'm doing a tour of the village. Just, I think I'm going from trapeze to sailing. So I'm walking on that little path, but not the one next to the beach, the one next to the building, closer to the buildings. So I'm walking, and I see a little tail that comes out of the bushes. So I'm thinking, there's a little monkey. I just kept walking. I said, as soon as I get close, he's gonna, run away. As soon as I get close, this is probably 5 or 6 feet away from that. The head comes out of the bushes, and I see the little bell, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wrong decision, Vlad. Wrong decision. Get out soon.
Whoops. Okay.
And I literally, we were like, probably, God bless, there wasn't cell phones like there is today, because there would be a video of me and him just trying, to kick each other and scare each other and chase each other. It was just funny for the next 30 seconds. It was just a comedy show.
Yeah, I remember, like, one was in the restaurant. I remember I said, I have to ask them how does the maintenance catch these? And then one day I'm walking, I see a maintenance guy, like, he's carrying a piece of luggage. He's got both arms of the monkey behind their backs, and he's carrying, like, with one hand. Like, this is how they caught them. So he was just carrying the monkey like he was a piece of luggage, and he was going to release him in the wild, but the monkey stayed calm when he did that. You know what I mean? Like, he literally, with one hand, had both arms behind the monkey's back and was just carrying him along, like, la di da di da. I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that. Okay.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let's get back to, like, and fun fact number 3, you mentioned that you used to do this thing. You're the only GO I've ever heard do this. You would, for some reason, most people celebrated a birthday in Club Med, but you tried to do this twice a year instead of once a year, right? Like, how did you get this idea to start?
It was just it came out of the blue, just for no reason, but it was end up being a really fun.
But why would you want to do, if you were in a Mexican village, why would you want to do mordida twice? This is what I don't get. Okay.
I love red wine, Greg.
Oh my God. Okay.
Red wine lover. That's what we do.
You're tough. Okay. So
find excuses to drink.
So did any chief of villages get wise to your prank? Like, hey, Vlad, didn't we just do your birthday 3 months ago? Or
that's the reason why I kept it, because I was explaining how it started.
Okay.
It started by me being in Cancun with Hammer, and obviously my birthday came on in April, and people is organizing, and we party, and we did whatever, so we celebrated my birthday. And a few months later, literally 6 months, October, somewhere in that frame, I'm like, hey, what? I remember we were in a table, and people is asking, oh, when is your birthday? For some reason, I don't remember, with GMs or something like that. And somebody goes, when is your birthday? And asks to another GO, and the GO goes, it's going to be in January or whatever. And they start asking around the table, and they look at me, it's like, oh, when is your birthday? It's coming, trying to be just vague and not answering. I'm like, it's coming. And they look at me like, but coming like soon coming? And I'm like, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm just, And they're like, oh, so is it like this week or next week? When is it? So is it this week? And I'm like, eh. And I'm just playing along, like I'm just having fun, trying not to answer, but just for fun. And suddenly they just start clicking. No, please don't tell me it's Thursday or Friday. What is it? Is Friday? Is it Friday? And I'm like, nodding and just moving my head around. And people just start assuming that it was my birthday on Friday. And I'm like, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna have fun with this because I never said it was my birthday. So obviously, I thought it was just fun. I thought it was just within these 5 or 6 people on the table. Next thing I know, there's Geos coming from other services and this and that coming and say, hey, Vlad, so your birthday is going to be your birthday is going to be on Friday. We got a party. What are we doing? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh God, I mean, this is just getting out of control. So I decided, and I called the guys from Dadios. I'm like, guys, can you help me? And they're like, sure. What do you need? I'm like, I need you to send 2 buses to Club Med to pick up Geos for a Geo party. And they're like, okay, you got it. So people start coming. I'm like, guys, Thursday, there's 2 buses. We're going to go a party. Everything's going to be fun. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to go party. So everybody starts talking about this because it's my birthday, but I never said that. So I took the entire village and we took them out. We went out there, party, blah, blah, blah. The entire thing. Yes, they did put happy birthday Vlad on the screen, but I never asked for it. So all of these things are happening. The next day, backstage for a show, we're changing like we used to do for the Michael Jackson show or whatever. There's like 40 Geos backstage changing, and everyone's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm hungover, this and that. And somebody goes, hey, it was great that party last night. Sure. And somebody asked, hey, what did we celebrate, or why did we throw a party? And people goes, it was Vlad's birthday. And I'm like, no. And you see all these faces turning to me, looking with like surprised eyes, saying, what? It was your birthday. And I'm like, no, mine is April 10th. And it was like, you are kidding. And I'm like, no, April 10th, check. So everybody thought it was my birthday and we did it. And it was just fun. And I'm like, hey, this is good. Funny thing is, 6 months later, my birthday happened. And a year later, I'm like, I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it to Hammer again. And it start happening over and over. Then it happened to Gus. I did it to Gus when I worked with him. And then I did it back to Hammer when I worked with him in Sandpiper as well. So I just started doing it.
Okay. Well, you are truly the only one I've ever heard that has done that. Okay. Like of all the people I've spoken to. So that's unique, sir.
Geos will be like, what? How? Why? Because Geos will look at each other the next day and be like, God, I knew it because I was here on your birthday. I'm like, I know. But in Club Med, we live so fast. The pace is so fast. People don't realize it's only been 6 months. People think, yeah, maybe that was last year.
Yeah, exactly. The passage of time works differently in Club Med.
It was funny. I get Geos. I get Steph from Vancouver, great friend of mine that worked in Sandpiper with us. The same thing. She looked at me, it's like, I can't believe that you used to do that to us and we fell for it every time.
Nice. All right, let's get back to you, sir. During Bintan and Phuket, I see you go to training for CDV, Chef de Village training, correct?
I did the leisure services manager first, because obviously Club Med created that position first, but I was doing the CDV as well right after. I did LSM when I was in Bintan. I was going, now it was Vitel. Most of the trainings we did in Vitel, Java La Duz, and UF.
Was that training better than the Chief of Sports training?
This was pretty good. This was really good. This was fun. It was probably, we did about 6 weeks of training.
Okay, good. All right.
It was well organized. It was the first big LSM group, LSM HSM group that they created. And we were about 100 people, 50 of each.
Oh, wow.
It was massive. It was fun.
That's that's a massive group, eh? Jeez.
It's when they created that position, LSM HSMs.
Okay. And then at one point you go back to Turks to do interim Chef de Village, correct?
Yeah, then I did the Chef de Village again when I was in Phuket with Alessandro. As you can tell, I work with pretty much the same chef de village over and over because I like to. I always told people, and I believe that a village is made by the CDV, his personality, and so on. So the best village can be hell if you're with the wrong person, or the worst village can be heaven if you are with the right guy.
True.
And so I always follow people more than villages. Some people will complain, used to complain, or I heard them complain about Bintan, saying, Bintan is not that much fun. It was so much fun for me. Sandpiper, the same. In North America, a lot of Geos say Sandpiper is not a great place to go, and I understand. You want to go to the islands, you want to go to the, what we all think is living in a vacation or a vacational destiny, but Sandpiper was one of my best seasons as well, because I was surrounded by a great team and a great bunch of people. So we had so much fun. So I follow them all the time. I went with Alessandro to Phuket, and then I went with Ryan to Bintan again for the second time. I went to Turks finally in 2009 or 11. So it was fun. And then I did interim in Turks for a while.
Who was the chief in Turks your last time?
I forgot his name right now.
Oh, okay. No problem. All right, let's do a quick, because I know we're running short on time. Let's do a quick answer questions. Like, I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions. Don't think, just answer. Okay. Are you ready?
Please don't ask milk.
No. Please don't what?
Do not ask milk.
What's that mean?
Have you seen the movie Van Wilder?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. No, it won't be that. Favorite crazy signs? Rapid fire.
Favorite crazy sign? Canzone Intelligente. It's an Italian crazy sign.
Okay.
And the second one will be the other way around, but the second one is the original crazy sign, Scatman. The one that has signals.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Do you have a favorite dumb question that you got from a GM and all your time? Like question like, when's it going to stop raining? Do you have a favorite one?
I remember people asking me, what time is the 8:00 tennis lesson starts?
Okay, that's a classic. Sure. Question for Tay. Do you have a recurring dream where you are still back at Club Med? So in the dream, you're working at Club Med. Do you have this dream ever?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. It's horrible. Okay. Now
that's what I heard. I heard your podcast, and I heard people saying, yes, I do.
Okay.
Like, no, I don't.
I'm glad you don't. It's hell. Okay. Okay. Besides the chiefs you mentioned, were there any other, chief of service, GOs, like anyone that you liked and you clicked with? Like, I know you mentioned Hammer and Gus and Ryan Leach, but I don't want to leave anyone out. Like, it could be a GO, could be a chief of service, chief of sports.
From
any season, I mean.
Sure. From a CDV perspective, I have to mention that, Kevin, Hammer, Hendel, Ryan, all of those guys, Greg Schneider, are people that I love, admire, and that have helped me grow a lot. I learned a lot from these people. And from the chief of services, I can tell you that it will be rough, and I don't want to miss anybody, but my best friends in life are people that I met in Club Med, and I think that's what Club Med gives to all of the people that experience or work as a GO at a certain point. The friendships that you build in there are amazing.
Yes, agreed. And after roughly all this time with Club Med, you go back to Mexico City, and you are currently a general manager for a resort in the Mayan Riviera, correct?
Yeah, I went back to Mexico City. I created a project in Mexico City for a Spaniard family where we built a brand, local brand, a personal brand for them. We opened hotels and restaurants in Mexico City, high-end, luxury, beautiful. And then I came to Cancun almost a year ago now, and I've been working in a fantastic company as well that I believe I'm blessed to work with in Blue Diamond Resorts here, and I manage a 1,200 rooms property.
How many staff?
2,000 people.
Really? Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a big monkey.
Do you still have time to go to Daddy-O's? You don't have to answer that. Okay. It's okay.
I cannot say anything.
I know, no problem. Okay, because if I lived in Cancun, I know
my wife will kill me if she knows.
Got it. Understood. Okay. Well, congratulations. Hey, I didn't know you were married. Okay, great. Well, so that's why I go to Cocobongo. I always thought it was safer at Cocobongo, and I that was my favorite. I mean, I would start at Daddy-O's, but then I would always end up in Cocobongo because I'd never seen a club like that ever anywhere in the world.
It's a great concept, isn't it? I mean,
everywhere you look, there's something going on every 2 minutes, so yeah, I used to love going there. Wow. So are you allowed to say the name of the resort that you're currently the general manager of?
Royalton Riviera Cancun.
Royalton Riviera Cancun. Okay.
Correct.
Wow. 2,000 staff. But I guess you don't have to cover for the aerobics person anymore, right? If they don't show up or they're sick, right? Please.
I have power walk in 10 minutes. So
okay, sorry. Okay. Oh my God. Please say that's a joke. Okay. You're gonna destroy me if you say that's true. Okay. You're the general manager. You should not have to do the power walk. Okay. Unless you like it. Okay.
White Aerobics 12:30, Greg. I'll see you there.
Woo, all right, man. I know we covered a lot, but man, before I let you go, am I forgetting to ask you anything, sir? You've been so kind with your time.
Not at all. I don't think. I actually want to thank you because it's great just to share and go back into this, memory lane of all the things that we did, we experienced, we learned from, and it's been fantastic. I can tell you, like I said, 26 years of doing this, and what happened to be a month break kind of thing ended up being my career and lifestyle, and I just love it. And I'm thankful and God bless that I had the opportunity to do everything that I have done. And I thank you for the opportunity of sharing this and just, talking with you and remembering how we met and the things we have done. And I hope to see you very soon, my friend.
Excellent. Will you permit me one last question? I think you might have answered it already. Can I ask you one last?
Please do.
I think so. If all the villages you've done, can you put a favorite? What was it? Playa? Was there a magical one? Like, was there? I know you have a lot of favorites, but was there one that was magical? Was it Playa? Was it your first one because it was your first season? Was it Cancun?
I will say the best season. I will divide it into best season I ever had was Playa Blanca. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Because of everything, Vladimir, Araño, Lulu, and obviously everything. Gus. Yourself.
Right.
People at tennis. It was a bunch of people. I don't want to miss anybody, but the entire group was amazing.
People.
The traffic team, Salvador and Rodrigo, we had a great relationship. We used to party together and we know each other. We're very close friends up until today as well. So Playa was amazing. But one that seems very special to me as well for many reasons, everything that happened there and the mark that it left in me and my career is Phuket in Thailand.
Oh, nice. Oh, beautiful resort too.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right. Well, there you have it, everyone. That was Vladimir Mailen. Thank you so much again for sharing your story, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. And thank you very much. Greetings to everybody. And thank you.
And we'll see you all next week. Say bye, Vlad.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg.